أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على الأفضل الموجودات، العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد، سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، صاحب الوقار والسكينة، المدفون بأرض المدينة، أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، واللعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين. آمين يا رب العالمين. فقد قال سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حافظوا على صلواته والصلاة الوسطى وقوموا لله قانتين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. First and foremost, congratulations once again on the wilada of our Lady of Light, the daughter of Rasulullah, as-Sadiqatu al-Tahira Al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bihaqq al-Zahra alayhi salatu wa salam, inshallah, accept all of your hajat, your du'as, and inshallah remove any sorrows and any griefs from our lives. Anyone who is unwell, especially in our community, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bihaqq al-Zahra give them shifa ajila wa kamila. Recite salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Hafizu ala salawat wa salatil wusta. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah number 2 says, protect your prayers, your obligatory prayers. Hifazat karo apni namazon, wajib namazon ki hifazat karo. Protect your salawat, yani salat yawmiya, the daily prayers, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. And then he says, wa salatil wusta, and especially the middle prayer, the day prayer, the mid prayer, the Asr prayer. Ulama Mufassirin say Salatul Wusta is Salatul Asr. وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obediently as a servant would stand in front of his Lord. So when you pray, it says protect your prayer. And now we said that inshallah this year we will look at how to improve our prayer. We said that everyone prays, but the important things are the little things that count. Praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with full concentration, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with politeness, praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with attention, not praying but attention is diverted somewhere else. So this is one of the most important things that forms the bulk of any prayer, be it salat, be it saum, be it zakat, be it hajj. You can go around 7 times around the Kaaba, but out of those 7 times, 6 times I was thinking about something else. Only one tawaf of the Kaaba was really khalisatan lillah. And so one must get into the habit that slowly one's prayer is moving up, like you move up a class. Year 1, year 2, year 3, school, primary, secondary, college, university. Prayer is the same. It moves up in darajat. Salat has darajat. As an example, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salatu was-salam, he says, if you want to pray, don't get up lazy. Don't be lazy in prayer. Like you do something that you really enjoy. Prayer should be like the same thing. Don't be lazy in prayer. He says, don't pray and doze off. You're praying, you're going into a long sajda and you've fallen asleep. Don't pray hastily. Rush, get it over and done with. Because this is considered as, being unpolite to Allah is not considered as polite to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And then the Holy Imam says, be still in prayer. When you're in prayer, be still, full concentration. Not that some people are, playing with their beard or playing with their clothes or, clicking your fingers. Recite salawat. Or sometimes people are scratching too much. Because not only are you disturbing your own prayer, you could be disturbing the guy next to you. Especially if you really loud knuckles. Don't fidget in prayer. Of course, scratching does not invalidate the prayer. To an extent, it's all fine. To a necessity, it's all fine. In another tradition, in a similar tradition from Imam Muhammed al-Baqir alayhi salatu was salam. It says, when you stand in prayer, don't fidget with your hands, head or beard. Another important one is don't yawn in prayer. Sometimes you're praying and you're yawning. Why, it's not considered polite. And we've been discussing politeness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the past 2 Jummahs. It says, don't yawn. SubhanAllah, the amount of time you see people yawn in my lecture. It says, don't yawn in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Would you yawn in front of an important person? Would you yawn in a job interview? No. Why? Because it's not polite. And also yawning can mean 2 things. Either you're really tired, you haven't slept, or you're really bored, that the lecture's putting you to sleep. So Imam says, do not yawn in your prayer. Remove your fatigue before you come to the prayer. In other words, there must be a sort of a hal for prayer. इंसान जब मुसल्ला इबादत पे आए तो एक अच्छे हाल, अच्छे अंदाज के साथ मुसल्ला इबादत पर आए. How can we change this? How can we increase concentration? How can we increase politeness towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer? Number 1, attention towards those small supplications that you do when you make your wudu, the minor ablution. When you make wudu, there are certain du'as. So to increase attention in prayer, one must concentrate on that which is before prayer. What is before prayer? Wudu. If I can increase my concentration in wudu, prayer will become better. And that's why when I go to prayer, when I go to wudu, one must go with full concentration and attention that this is wudu for salah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are small du'as that are to be recited. If you can recite them, well and good, even better. And this will increase your attention towards these rituals. The du'a of wudu, the taqibatu salah, the du'as that you do after salah, of the salatul fajr, dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha. So that again, it helps in building that connection with prayer. Not that Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allahu Akbar and khalas, run out, finished. No. The Hadith Qudsi says that if you have prayed salah, now sit and raise your hands and ask Allah for something. अगर तुमने नमाज पढ़ी ली है, हदीस कुदसी है मेरे बंदे, अगर तूने नमाज पढ़ी है तो अपने हाथों को उठा के मुझसे कुछ मांग. मैं चाहता हूं तो मुझसे कुछ तलब कर. And the person who does not, then Allah calls the angels, He tells the angels, O malaika, ya malaikati ya sukan samawati, O my angels, O the ones who live on my throne, have you seen the servant who prays, but then he rushes out, does not ask me for anything? What should I do with this prayer? Should I give it back to him? Hadith Qudsi. And then he says to the angels, he says, what is he running to? Does he not know that his affairs are in my hands? What is he going to? ये कहाँ भाग रहा है? ये कहाँ जा रहा है? क्या ये नहीं जानता कि उसकी सारी तकदीर मेरे हाथों में है? क्या ये चाहता है कि मैं से हर चीज छीन लूं ताकि फिर ये रोता रोता मेहराब इबादत में आ जाए? क्योंकि जब कुछ नहीं होता तो सब मस्जिद में आ जाते हैं, क्योंकि एक ही दर है जहां से मिलता है, वह दरे खुदा है, दर अहले बैत है। दुरूद पढ़िए मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद पर। Hafizu, protect ala salawat. Protect your prayers. How do you protect your prayers? Number one, by praying on time. How can you be more polite to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can I be more polite to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is to pray on time. Like I said, alhamdulillah, we all pray. But do we all pray at its prescribed time? This is important. To pray on time. This is a form of ihtaram lillah, ta'zeem of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to pray awwalul waqt of the salah. Imam Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu was salam. Imam says, be aware of what? It says, be careful that worldly affairs do not stop you from praying on time. Be aware. You know, many of the ulama, sometimes they'll be talking, speaking. When it's time for prayer, they say, stop. Let's pray, and we continue our discussion. Sometimes they're giving a class, teaching, dars. It says time for prayer. If I continue the class now, it's not polite to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Stop, salah, and then we come back. Imam Ibn says, do not let any of the affairs of the dunya stop you from praying on time. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blamed those who are heedless to their prayers, who are heedless to their times of prayer. Recite salawat. You know, we mentioned this, that sometimes you don't want to do something, but you do it out of politeness. Sometimes you're not in a mood. Sometimes you're not in a mood to talk to anyone, but you still have to be polite. Just because your mood is off doesn't mean everyone else's mood is off. Just because you don't feel like doing something, that doesn't mean everyone else doesn't want to do something. Like when you go out, you see your neighbor. Even if you've had an argument at home, you'll still say hello to your neighbor. You still smile at your neighbor. Why? Because you know you have to do it. And you know it's the right thing to do. In the same way, you're not in a mood to get up for prayer. But you know, if you don't do it, then it's not polite to Allah. Recite salawat. So this politeness forces someone to behave well. You're not in a mood. You're angry. You're upset. You've lost money. Business has gone down. Something has happened. You've had an argument. But yet when you step out the house, you see your neighbor, he says hello to you, say hello back. And you smile, he smiles back. Politeness leads you to do that. We should be polite to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. I'm not in a mood to pray, but I have to pray in honor and in respect of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Everyone with me? Durood padhiye Muhammad wa ale Muhammad par. In the same way, a polite person won't yawn in front of someone. Someone is talking to, a job interview, someone important, because he's not polite. A polite person wouldn't extend his legs in front of someone. We have a hadith, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rada alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The hadith says, the Ravi of the hadith says, he says, I never saw the holy Imam extend his legs in front of someone, because he considered it as impolite. He always collected his legs in and he sat. As long as someone was sitting, even one person was sitting, he would never open his legs. He would never yawn in front of someone. He would never start speaking unless the other one has stopped speaking. He would wait for the other person's speech to finish, listen to each and every word, and then the holy Imam Ali ibn Musa would start speaking. Akhlaq al-Muhammad, the adab of al-Muhammad. And this is how the real Islam spread, with the akhlaq of al-Muhammad, not by the sword. Recite salawat. When you go to work, you may not be in a mood, but you don't take out your anger on your first client that you see. Or you're in your meeting, you're on a call, you don't get angry at him or her, whoever you're talking to. Taxi drivers, when you pick up your first customer, you don't shout at him. Why? Because it's not polite. Whatever happens at home must stay at home. When you come to work, you have to be professional. And this is it. And look at this beautiful hadith, subhanallah. The sixth Imam says the best thing any father can leave a child is politeness. He says, don't teach, the ulama say, more important than teaching your children religious and Quranic ayat, and this is, this will hit you. More important than teaching your children religion is to first teach them politeness. They say it's more effective. Teach him politeness. Yeah, you taught him religion, but we taught him politeness. The first thing the ulama of akhlaq, they say you should teach your children is politeness. One of the soldiers from the army of Yazid the Mal'un, la'natullahi alayh, he says that no matter how much after the shahadat of Imam Hussein, after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, when we took them to Sham, from Kufa to Sham, he says no matter how much we abused and we hit the children of Hussein, they never uttered a bad word towards us. Look at the politeness of the children of Imam Hussein. He says no matter how much we hit the children of Hussein, how much we abused them, how much we cursed them, none of them said even a single bad word to us throughout the whole journey. Say, by God, we have never seen children like the children of Hussein ibn Ali. Subhanallah. Assalamu ala awlad al-Hussein. What an honorable family, the family of Imam al-Hussein. Recite salawat. And with this, the importance of politeness in religion. Islam says when a son is walking with the father, he shouldn't walk too behind that the father has to keep turning. He shouldn't walk too ahead that the father says, slow down. I can't. I'm not as young as you anymore. And he shouldn't walk shoulder to shoulder so that he looks taller than the father. He should walk just a step behind the father. Politeness. If this is the politeness of the father, imagine the politeness towards the Creator. And so the servant must learn politeness. And that is through prayer. That one prays on time. And one of the first things that we should teach our children is politeness. That you can't always have it your way. Just because you want it this way. Or just because you're not in your mood is off. Everyone else's mood should be off. And that politeness will then, in prayer, lead to the love of Allah. Sometimes you start praying, we say, I don't have that love for Allah yet. But it's this politeness over the years that then leads to respect, honor, and eventually love of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah fills our hearts with the love of Allah, His Messenger, and Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq that we are able to become more firm, polite, and attentive in our prayers, in our ibadat. We pray to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala forgives us of our major and minor sins, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Pray to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala we are able to serve our parents, our grandparents, we are able to be polite to our parents, inshaAllah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Allahumma salli Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته غضبه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين محمد بن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم اللهم صل على قائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه ما صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على صديقة الطاهرة الشهيدة والمظلومة والمقتولة الزهراء صلوات الله عليها والصلاة والسلام على إمامنا الحسن المجتبى المقتول بالسم الجفا وعلى أبي عبد الله الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين العلي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي الجواد وعلي بن محمد الهادي والحسن بن علي العسكري والحجة بن الحسن المهدي صلوات الله وسلامه عليهم أجمعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وقائدا وناصرة ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين صلوات محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Today's Jummah Tabarruk has been sponsored by the family of Mr. Adnan Shah Saab and family, and he's asked for special dua shifa for his daughter, Dr. cousin sister, Dr. Saima Shah, who's unwell as we speak, and we have been making dua for her for the past few weeks. And Mu'minina, please request it too. Even when you go home in your prayers, in your duas at home in namaz, do remember these names that we are mentioning again and again. Dr. Saima Shah especially, whose family has sponsored today's tabarruk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us shifa with the loudest of your salawats. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, we're going to start a new topic from today, which will last the next few weeks, which will be inshallah a look at the ashab of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, the companions of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, especially companions who are not discussed as much in the lectures, in the majalis, in the mahafil. So inshallah, every week we will try to go over in the whatever short time we have over the lives of the loyal and the faithful companions of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, many of them who gave their lives for the sake of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because to know Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib is also to know those who gave their blood and sweat for Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. And today, Allahumma salli ala I want to begin by a very special companion by the name of Qambar. Someone who was very special, rahmatullahi alayhi, radwanullahi alayhi. Someone who was very special to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, someone who was very close to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, someone, in fact, who accepted Islam at the hands of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. But how much do we really know about Qambar? How much do we really know about the other companions, about Kumail? How much do we know about Hujr ibn Adi? How much do we know about Maysam al-Tammar? All these companions. And these are amongst the Akabir, they are amongst the great ashab of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Those who knew secrets from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib. How much do we really know about their lives, where they came from? How they ended up in, if they came from the non-Arab lands, how did they end up in Hijaz? How did they end up living a life so close to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen? How much do we know about Malik al-Ashtar, where he came from and what happened and his life? So inshallah, today we'll begin this, just a few points, and whatever's left over, we'll take it over to next week. Qambar was no ordinary person. Qambar was someone very special. And his love for Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen and Ali's love for Qambar is evident in history. That at one point when Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen buys 2 shirts, he gives the better one to Qambar and he keeps the cheaper one for himself. That shows the love that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen has for Qambar, rahmatullahi alayh. But reality is, who is Qambar? Where does he come from? And what is his background? Ulama have written that Qambar belonged to Habasha, Africa. Today, Ethiopia, that area of Ethiopia. That Habasha region is a region where Qambar came from. And some of the ulama say that even Bibi Fidda, salamullahi alayha, came from Habasha. But some ulama say no, Bibi Fidda was from Hind, from India. So there's ikhtilaf bain al-mu'arrikhin. Was Fidda from Habasha, or was Fidda min al-Hind? Was she from Hind? So it's disputed. However, Qambar, according to the famous opinion, was that he was from Habasha. And in fact, he was one of the sons of the king of Habasha. So he was from like a royal family. He was royal. He wasn't like, anyone. He was royal. He was the best of his empire. And not a lot is available on his life. I mean, how many books do you know on Qambar? English, Arabic, Farsi, Urdu. Not many. You really have to dig through old manuscripts and here and there, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit in, which is the job of the ulama, the scholars, the researchers, not everyone's job, to really get some understanding of the life of Qambar. So in fact, this itself is very hard to do a series on Ashab of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, especially if there's not enough available on the Holy Personality. But whatever is available that speaks about Qambar says that he was the son of a king. For example, the book Fazail Murtazawi by Marhum Mirza Baqir Ali Marhum Dehlavi. He has written on this. Marhum Sayyid Agha Ali Mehdi has written on this. He was a Lakhnavi scholar, Agha Mehdi Lakhnavi. He has written on a book on Qambar, which is in Urdu, that's available. But again, not enough is available on this family. What does he say? He says that Qambar's uncle at that time was the king of Habasha, and his name was Askabush. Askabush was his uncle, and Qambar's real name was Fatah. His uncle was in charge of the reins of the government. And he had said to him previously that when you grow up, I'll marry my daughter onto you, and so you will become part of the kingdom and you will have a share in the power. Now as he grew up, that never happened. And he says that at the age of 30, 32, he grew up to be someone who was very brave, wise, clever, intelligent, well-mannered, well-behaved, and someone who was a caring person in society. But as he got older, he came to his uncle one day and he says, look, you promised me that I'd marry your daughter, my cousin, I'd marry my cousin, and I would have, I'd have a share in the government, in the rule, in the kingdom, and that's not happening. So he says to him, look, I'm not just going to marry you to my daughter without you proving yourself. He says, how do I prove myself? He says, look, I'll marry my daughter to the bravest. And as far as I'm concerned, The bravest today in the world is not in Habasha. The bravest today is a man by the name of Ali amongst the Arabs. The bravest today, we have heard of a man called Ali. He lives in Hijaz, in the Arabian Peninsula. He is the bravest. So, O Fatah, if you want me to marry you to my daughter, go to Hijaz and bring me the head of Ali. And if you do that, then I'll marry you to my daughter and you have your share in the kingdom, in the throne. So Fatah says to him, look, I can't do this alone. Why don't you send me with your son and a batch of an army and we'll do this mission together. And when I come back, Fatah is Kambar, right? When I come back and I bring you, if I bring you the head of Ali, the bravest of the Arabs, then you've seen me. He says, okay, send me your son. His son's name was Fazl. He says, take Fazl with you and take a batch of an army with you. Now, cut the long story short. As he gets close to Medina, they travel. As he gets close to Medina, for some reason, he decides to stop outside Medina for 2 days. And he has doubts in his mind. He says, if my uncle said he's brave, how brave really is this man Ali? So he stops. And he says to Fazl, his cousin, the son of his uncle, he says, look, why don't we wait until someone from Medina comes out this way and we ask them or we ask him about Ali. How brave is he? Can I even fight him? What does he look like? How ferocious is he? Are we able to take him on as a challenge? Now the reality is, history states that as he stops for 2 days, no one comes. He says, he takes a few people, he says, Fazl, you come with me and the rest, some of you come with me, we'll go towards Medina. We go in and we quietly see where Ali is. Now history states, as they are entering Medina, by chance Ali ibn Abi Talib is exiting Medina. उसने इत्तफाक देखिए, यहाँ से जनाब कंबर, जो उस वक्त कंबर नहीं फतह के नाम से जाने जाते थे, यहाँ से जनाब कंबर, वहाँ से अली आ रहे हैं. अब अली किस हालत में आ रहे हैं? हालत तो मौला की देखिए. दोष पे बेलचा उठाया हुआ है, कपड़ों पे गर्दो गुबार और मिट्टी है. जाहिर है कि किसी बाग से आ रहे हैं. यहाँ कंबर, that side Ali ibn Abi Talib. They stop him. They say, oh man, are you from Medina? He says, yes, I'm from Medina. He says, we want to ask you about a man called Ali. Do you know him? The Imam smiles and he says, look, no one knows him better than me. He says, no one knows Ali better than me. And then he says, okay, tell us, if you know this man Ali, tell us one thing. What does he look like? What is his height? He says, his height is like mine. He says, okay. He says, what is the complexion of his skin? He says, it's like mine. He said, how does he talk? He says, exactly like me. And then Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he sees, the hadith is strange. In fact, the hadith says that when Ali ibn Abi Talib, before they even spoke, when Ali saw him, Qambar come, the first thing Ali ibn Abi Talib says, Sadaqa Rasulullah. रसूल ने सच कहा था कि मुझे इस दिन एक गुलाम अता होगा. And Amir al-Mu'mineen knew. Rasulullah had prophesied. He knew. He says, Sadaqa Rasulullah to himself. Obviously, they don't know what's going on. Rasulullah was right in what he said, that today is the day I will meet one of my loyal companions. And so they say, okay, well, how strong is he? Now when Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen hears that question, he says, look, if you can defeat me, you can defeat him. If you can defeat me, I'll make it easy. He says, if you can defeat me, you can defeat Ali. Now Qambar, whose name is Fatah at that time, he says, look, then allow me to wrestle with you. Allow me to fight with you. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, no problem. He says, attack me. He takes out, the hadith says, he takes out his sword and he wants to try to aim for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ali ibn Abi Talib blocks it with the this spade, belja. He blocks it with the spade, breaking his sword in half. Now he doesn't have a sword. So now he tries to again wrestle with Imam Amirul Mu'mineen. And no matter what he tries, he cannot get hold of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And now Imam Amirul Mu'mineen says, now you've had your turn. Now it is my turn. Amirul Mu'mineen grabs him with one hand. And as he's about to throw him on the ground, he stops just before he hits the ground. He says, my heart is full of mercy. For you especially. And then he says to him, look, when he realizes that this man is no ordinary man, he says, tell me who you are. He realizes this is Ali ibn Abi Talib. When he sees that and he sees the noor, he sees the greatness, he says, look, you're not defeatable. But by just looking at Imam Ali ibn Abi, this interaction between Qambar and Ali, he says that my heart just was filled with his love, this man, whoever this was. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I instruct you to recite Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. You recite kalima, tawheed, profess Islam, and you are amongst us. You shall be my brother. He says, at one condition, O Ali. Imam says, what is that condition? He says, the condition is that you allow me to become one of your servants and serve you, and I will not return to Habasha. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen accepts his condition, and at that moment when he accepts Islam, Amir al-Mu'mineen gives him the name Qambar. Now my last line, and I end here. Qambar. What is Qambar? The name Qambar. The name Qambar actually belongs to a bird. Qambar एक परिंदे का नाम है. एक खूबसूरत परिंदा, सर पे ताज है उसका, आप कभी फोटो देखें तो उसके सर पे ताज होता है. जिस तरह हुदहुद का परिंदा एक अच्छा परिंदा है. Qambar, bird, ta'ir. It's like a type of a bird. So Amir al-Mu'mineen changes his name to Qambar. And the hadith explains, Ibn Shahr, in Manaqib Ali Abi Talib, Ibn Shahr Ashub, he writes a hadith in which he says that what is the speciality of the Qambar and the white eagle? He says on the day before Allah created everyone in body, He gathered the souls of everyone and He gave them the chance to accept Tawheed, Nabuwat and Imamat. The first two birds which accepted Allah and His Messenger and the Wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib was the white eagle and the Qambar. And the first bird that rejected the Wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib amongst all of the Khalaiq was the owl. Ullu jise kehte hain Urdu mein. And Allah cursed the owl. And because of this, it hides in the day and comes out at night. And there was another bird by the name of Unqa. Because this bird was cursed, the hadith says that this bird no longer exists. And so because of this reason, Amirul Mu'mineen named him Qambar. I end it here inshallah and we'll leave the rest for next week. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our ibadat, our amal. Give us tawfiq inshallah to understand the lives of the ashab of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, who gave their blood for the life of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, who gave their lives for the life of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah this year we're granted with the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and in akhirah the shafaat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن